Tony and I want to welcome you to our study of the Psalms today. We're in Psalm 55, and this is a prayer of someone who's been wronged by a friend. I expect most of us can remember a time when we've been hurt or betrayed or wronged by someone close to us, and we know the emotions and how deep they are. We also know how we can stew over those all the time. I know I have, and it's really hard to get them off my mind. I have learned to struggle with those hard emotions and to pray about them, to bring them to God, and to eventually lift them off of my shoulders and put them on His. Peter writes this to us, and this is a paraphrase from the Living Bible, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Let God have all your worries and cares, for He's always thinking about you and watching everything that concerns you. And so this prayer in this psalm is going to show us how to do just that, to lift our cares and put them on God for Him to care for us.
Prayer is interesting. We trust that God's love and grace is abundant and that He will hear and respond to what we say to Him. Verses 1 and 2 say, Hear my prayers, O God. Don't turn away from my plea. Listen to me and answer me. I am worn out by my worries. Jesus has shown us that God does not turn away from our requests for help. The daily life of Jesus was filled with interactions where people asked Him for help. The only thing that kept people from getting help from Jesus is their unwillingness to ask for it. And that's why it's important for us to talk and ask God for help. The life of Jesus encourages us to bring every concern to Him, including times when we are hurt and pain from being wronged.
Not everybody likes to hear complaints. You have to sit and listen to people talk, and sometimes this will just wear you out. One of the beauties about the Psalms is that they are full of complaints. Apparently, God isn't bothered by our complaints. In the Psalms, they're called laments, where people just bring all the different things that bother them to God and they lay them at His feet. Here's how this psalm talks about being injured, and here's a complaint. If it were an enemy making fun of me, I could endure it. If it were an opponent boasting over me, I could hide myself from him. But it's you, my companion, my colleague, and close friend. We had intimate talks with each other and worshiped together in the temple. That's Psalm 55, verses 12 through 14. Now, the person's addressing their friend, but I really think they're addressing it to God, sort of like a soliloquy. This is my word to God about what's going on in my life. I tell married couples or couples that are getting ready to get married that you will know how to hurt your partner more than anybody else on earth. There are intimacies that are shared between husband and wife that allow them to know what really can get under their skin and really hurt them. And I always say to them, probably with a pretty stern look, don't ever use what you know to hurt your partner in an argument. In some ways, this is true in church also. People get close. We bond with one another. And if you've been in church long enough, you'll know that there are times when people hurt each other, friends who maybe lose their friendship over that. So what do we do when this goes on? We bring it to God. We complain to Him. We tell Him how we've been hurt and what's gone wrong with us. Here's how the psalm writer put it. My former companion attacked his friends. He broke his promises. His words were smoother than cream, but there was hatred in his heart. His words were soothing as oil, but they cut like swords. Verses 20 and 21.
The Psalms help us to put into words our hurt and fear. With the speaker of this Psalms, we can say, I am worn out by my worries. I am terrified and crushed. I am overcome. I wish I could get away from it all. I wish I could find shelter from this storm. We are able to vent our emotions to God in a very honest and transparent way, with none of our feelings held back.
I remember sitting with one of my dear saintly ladies in the church in another congregation. We were on her back porch, and she told me about a time where she was so angry at God that she went out to this back porch and literally screamed at Him. You know what God did? He heard her and He helped her. The book of Job, the Psalms, some instances in the life of Jesus let us know That's exactly how we can come to God. Prayer is an expression of our trust in God. We trust Him, like the lady I talked about, to be able to scream at Him. We trust Him with our emotions. We give Him all the different things that we feel. Here's how the psalmist put it. But I call to the Lord for help, and He will save me. Morning, noon, at night, my complaints and groans go up to Him, and He'll hear my voice. He'll bring me safely back from the battles that I fight against so many enemies. God, who has ruled from eternity, will defeat them, for they refuse to change. They don't fear Him. That's verses 16 through 19. People have been, wronged by a spouse or a close friend or a fellow church member. They have to do something with that. And some people, unfortunately, don't pray about it. They just stew. They just recreate their anger and they think about it over and over. A lot of those people walk away from church and they walk away from God. They allow that hurt to drive them away. There are some people, unfortunately, in church who have the idea of God who is someone out there, but they don't know Him as God, who I talk with every day, who is my close friend. Everybody is going to have trouble. If God is your close friend, you can call on Him. That doesn't mean everything's going to be neat and perfect and easy, but you can call on Him in your time of trouble, and He is going to come and help you just like He did for the psalmist.
Amen. After telling God all about his troubles, the speaker in this psalm gave some advice to the people who pray along with him. In verse 22, he says, "Leave your troubles with the Lord, and He will defend you. He never lets honest people be defeated." If you have ever walked through a muddy field, you know how the mud continues to build up in big globs on your shoes the farther you travel. This is a good image of what happens to each of us. We pick up the junk of the world in our hearts throughout the day. A good practice is to come to the Lord at the end of each day and leave our troubles with Him. This last verse and the one from 1 Peter 5:7 tell us to scrape off the mud of the day as we give to God our troubles and cares.
Amen. Now, if you're a careful reader of my blog, you'll know that I've skipped a couple of Psalms. And I'm going to skip a few more as we proceed through because they actually repeat what we've already talked about. I've also skipped some verses in this Psalm because I don't think they're really appropriate for the people who are our audience. And so read those and just note that that's the case. Tony, I'm really glad that you're happy that you're part of this with us. And if you'd like us to pray for you, Tony and I'll both pray for you. Send me an email at bsprad49@gmail or private message me on Facebook. We'll pray, but we also have a prayer team at the church to pray for you. Thanks again for being here. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.